UFC debut losses in the rearview mirror. A couple of bantamweights looking to make their mark and move forward up through the ranks. We have Fortis MMA's Fernie Garcia taking on Sick Jitsu's Brady Hiestand. The nickname's Bam Bam. There's too many Bam Bams in MMA. Find a different nickname for yourself. But what I can say, though, about the now 23-year-old Brady Hiestand is, what an impressive fighter. I mean, really, like, if you do look at it and you consider the run that he went on coming into the Ultimate Fighter Season 29, it's got to be awkward because Ricky Turcios is also on this card, and they're both on the undercard. But if you look at it for Brady Hiestand, he fought a paltry level of competition as a pro. I mean, starting off in 2018, taking on a guy who's 0-2, then a pro debut, 0-4, 0-6, Chad Anheliger, who knocks him out, and then Shane Sargent, who was 0-12, first round rear naked choke in 31 seconds. Then ends up on the Ultimate Fighter Season 29. It's one of those ones where, okay, you're going to have Juliana Pena's support. You're going to have, you know, the Michael Chiesas of the world that are going to flare and flash their support. So Hiestand goes in and fights Josh Reddinghouse. And to me, Reddinghouse holds a lot of water. Go look at his fights that he had against Sergey Morozov over at M1 Global if you need any proof there. Reddinghouse is a pro of over 20 fights. If I'm not mistaken, he's got closer to 30 than he has to 20.
Very experienced for the show.
Reddinghouse is really good. Yeah, a guy that you wouldn't think would need the Ultimate Fighter, and Hiestand wins that fight by decision. Then he goes in and takes on Vince Murdoch, who was a known commodity, Contender Series, Ultimate Fighter, and also he's supposed to be in the UFC. Hiestand finished him in the first round. So those really do hold a lot of water. He has a fight of the night style fight against Ricky Turcios, loses by split decision in that one for the finale of the show. And you can make an argument either way. But regardless, for Hiestand, you would have thought, okay, well, he lost on the finale of the Ultimate Fighter. He doesn't have a lot of pro experience. He's still a young guy. They're going to want him to get some more, you know, experience on the regional scene. No dice. He takes about a year off, a little over a year off, and now he gets a fight against Fernie Garcia, a guy who's fought at a high level with LFA, looked amazing against, Weems over on Dana White's Contender Series, gets the win there, and then for Garcia, makes his UFC debut. He's a favorite to beat Journey Newson, and in that fight, he just really couldn't get out of first gear. So a good starting point again for both these guys this weekend.
The weird thing that I have with Brady Hiestand is we've seen a lot of fighters of his archetype in this weight division in recent memory, to be completely honest. Think about guys like Jimmy Rivera. Ricky Simone right now is a guy who's having a lot of success.
Similar part of the world.
Exactly. Brian Kelleher to a lesser degree, but you get the idea. You have these basic boxers who are good wrestlers who might not be overly dominant with their whole submission game, but they're still control-oriented enough to where they're really going to make you think, and they're really going to threaten you enough with their wrestling to then help them open up their own stand-up. That's the thing about Hiestand. He doesn't have the most dynamic stand-up. It's not going to wow you like a Yair Rodriguez, but it is very bread and butter.
That guy throws hammers when he's on the feet.
That's the one good thing about him. It is basic, but he does put a lot behind his shots. Now, Ricky Turcios, when he was having success in that fight, now he was able to have a lot of his own success in the feet, was be the longer, rangier guy, be more dynamic on the feet, and I think that's always going to be the thing for Hiestand. If you're a guy who throws, think about Dan Hooker throwing the team kicks against Claudio Poyas. If you're a guy like that who can create that range, be that long-distance dynamic striker, I just think fighters like Brady Hiestand and all those fighters who are in that kind of category are going to have trouble with that type of fighter, and that's sort of what he finds himself in there with fighting a guy like Fernie Garcia.
Not a fucking chance. Fernie Garcia doesn't throw kicks at all.
No, but I still think Fernie is going to be better at range. He's more dynamic from that side, and for Hiestand, I just don't know if he's ever going to be able to make up that distance. Now, I called myself out for it in the first fight in the card. Fighters who are his age make up that distance in a very quick time. Every single time out there, we will see them be very impressive, but I was kind of saying jokingly before we started filming, like, in an age where Ultimate Fighter winners don't seem to have the highest ceiling, like, let's be honest, there has been an Ultimate Fighter winner for a while now who's really gone on and made their mark to win a title and whatnot. Like, it's been a while since the show has been top tier relevant. It is kind of surprising that he stands still in the UFC. I was kind of seeing them as maybe not giving him the developmental deal, but you get the idea. Go back to the regional scene, we'll keep an eye on you. You look impressive because I think he does have a good foundational skill set, but I do think it needs a lot more polish to really get the most out of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, a varied wrestling attack from Brady, and if you consider it, he's the type of guy that will go for an ankle pick to turn it into a single leg to then dump you on your back. He'll go for double legs across the cage. He really does have a wide array of takedowns. He's not just focused on, okay, I need a high crotch. Okay, I need, a body lock palm to palm. Like, he really does have it altogether, and he can really dominate that area of a lot of different fights that he finds himself
This is a very difficult question to answer, but in my mind, there's almost like two camps that Hiestand could take. It's, do I refine my submission game more to make my wrestling that much more lethal on the mat, or does he try to evolve his striking more to then open up the wrestling game? Because at this stage of his career, both options are possible, and I do think that, again, he's only 23 years old in a division where he could stay around in for a long time. I just don't think this fight against Fernie Garcia is the best of ideas. I think it's a fighter who has promise, but I think with some prospects, you can rush them a little bit too quick, and then we never really see them develop to the fullest capacity. Think about a guy like Chase Hooper. Like, Chase Hooper's a guy who had a lot of promise, kind of got rushed, if we're being honest, and now we don't know if we're ever going to see him realize that potential.
So for Hiestand, the only two losses on his official record are, of course, the Ricky Turcios loss by split, and he lost by third round finish to Chad Anheliger, who ended up in the UFC as well. So for Fernie Garcia, another interesting look. I mean, he was 6-4 as an amateur, 10-1 pre-UFC. He was supposed to take on a different opponent than Weems over on Dana White's Contender Series. Weems misses weight, weighs in 139, knocks him out, and it's a tidy hook in tight that ends up getting the finish. So he goes in and takes on Journey Newson, a guy who's somewhat similar to Brady Hiestand. I mean, throws hammers, compact, good grappler, Pacific Northwest, and in that fight, again, Garcia couldn't get out of first gear, and he's a guy that is such a proficient and technical boxer coming out of Fortis MMA. Garcia doesn't throw kicks, and when I say that, and I gave you a hard time...
No, you're right. I just meant he was more dynamic.
Yeah, he doesn't throw body kicks. He doesn't throw head kicks, and sure enough, he doesn't throw leg kicks either. So it really is a weird one, and it is very much one of those fights where it is a clash of styles, because for Bam Bam, he has that wrestling grappling pedigree. He takes you down, he can threaten with submission, trains with his brother at Alpha Jiu-Jitsu, brother, name of Bryson, if I could say it like Dr. Steve Brule. But when I look at Fernie Garcia, I had to make a comp. People have been really rallying around this. When I watch his fights, kind of reminds me of the last track of 1985's Rush's Power Windows. And if you know this album, and you know me, I absolutely love it. It's a great one. It's a lesser known Rush album. It's not, 2112, but the song is Mystic Rhythms, and it goes a little bit like this. The more we think we know about, the greater the unknown. We suspend our disbelief, and we are not alone. I don't know what to think of this guy. I thought Fernie Garcia had a clear path to move right up through the bantamweight division. I thought, okay, you take on Journey Newson. If you're able to crash distance and get rid of his head kicks, you're going to be able to get the win. Garcia's a much more proficient boxer than a guy like Newson. And Garcia, I didn't see that out of him. So now I'm left sitting here wondering, well, Garcia is a decent offensive wrestler. He's decent in threatening some of them. You go back and watch his fight against Batten Gonzalez, and in that fight, he is able to effectively use his grappling in the first round, opens up his boxing round 2, round 3. I don't see him going for any takedowns in this fight against Hiestand. Likewise, for Brady, I figure, well, you're going to go out there, put the wrestling shoes on from minute 1 to minute 15. And if you get a finish in the middle, you're probably happy with it. So, again, clash of styles, great boxer against a fighter who's really adept on the ground. We look at the odds here. Brady Hiestand, open -135, -153. Rather, that's for Fernie Garcia, brother. And if you look at it for Hiestand, open +105, he is a +125 underdog. So the line is going more towards Garcia out of Fortis. Safe Saud, chief among the corner over there. You know he's going to be yelling and screaming his fighter to victory. Hopefully, we have a look at the Tapology votes, Matt. Surprise to us as they are to you. With Garcia gaining, Hiestand coming off a loss. I'm going to say Garcia over under 65%.
I'll say over.
I'm going to say over. And look at that. 536 total votes. 57% on Sick Jitsu Zone Bam Bam. 83% by decision. For the 43% that have Garcia, 77% by decision. So the odds are going in favor of Garcia. The fans don't have him. Hiestand, the opposites attract. And Matt, how do you see this one? Because Hiestand's actually the bigger, longer fighter in this matchup.
I'm picking Garcia, but at least let me explain why, just in case anyone wants to disagree, they can understand my thought process behind it. This is the fight that will then convince me Hiestand has at least a decent ceiling, because I have to be honest, I don't even know how good Ricky Turcios is going to be. Like, I was excited about him coming off of the Ultimate Fighter, if I'm being honest. Like, he said all the right things, he has a fun fighting style, those are the things you get excited for. But as a fighter with a genuine ceiling in the division, I'm not really sure what it is. And for Hiestand, you brought it up, it can't be overstated. his wins are over guys who he was fully expected to win on his way up. And the fact that he had a close loss to Ricky Turcios still doesn't really tell us all that much. So for me, I think this fight against Fernie Garcia, if he's able to go out there and really use his wrestling, which I do expect him to do, I agree with you 100% on your breakdown. I think Hiestand, if he is going to have success, he's going to have to use his wrestling for wrestling's sake, but also use it to then open up some of his own striking, because if he goes in there and tries to work his own jab and just wing power shots, that's when he is then going to eat some of those bigger shots on the counter. So I think for Hiestand, he could become the fighter that some people think he's going to be, but I will willingly get this prediction wrong to hopefully be right about him.
Yeah, for Bam Bam Hiestand, like if you look at it, Reddinghouse 17-5 as a pro, on one of Matt's favorite promotions here recently, ex-MMA. I love that card. And if you look at it, he beat Vince Murdoch, who at the time was 12-4, having just lost to Luis Saldana on Contender Series. So for him, 0-24 was the combined opponent record before The Ultimate Fighter, but I learned a lot out of Hiestand on the show. So for me, I'm going with Bam Bam to get the win in the matchup. Matt going with Fernie Garcia. Definitely let us know who you have in this one, because the votes are in one spot, the odds are in the other, our picks are split. We really want to hear from you in the comments section. Some big fights on this card. Lewis taking on Spivak in the main event. You're not going to want to miss it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.